Well, good afternoon, Mr. Bob. Hi there. Do you know your sulcus bleeding index? Why, hello. I'm so glad you're back to join us and learn about more indices. Today we're going to discuss gingival bleeding, sulcus bleeding, and Eastman interdental bleeding. All of these indices are to assess the same thing, inflammation. How do you detect inflammation? With bleeding. So let's get started. You're going to need some armamentarium. You first would like to sanitize your hands. Just, can you pause that? So make sure your hands are properly cleaned, sanitized. Get your gloves on before you touch any materials. First, we're going to start with, as always, your proper PPE. You're going to need a mask, proper eyewear for yourself, the master clinician, and your patient. They prefer sunshades. You're also going to need a bib with plastic ply and a good rinse, such as Listerine, chlorhexidine, or biotin, whichever one suits your patient best. You're also going to need, for the indice test, nice, good, clean, sterile instruments. You're also going to need a interdental cleaning aid, a wooden interdental cleaning aid, and we would like to show you those, but all we have are toothpicks. The next one, you would need unwaxed floss. We don't have that either. So we're going with the nylon. Let's get started.
We're going to be talking about the gingival bleeding index. We're going to be using unwaxed but nylon floss. You're going to floss in the sulcus on each side of the tooth and check for bleeding. You're going to note bleeding after about 30 seconds. You're going to wait to see if there's delayed bleeding. So we'll start on Mackenzie's first premolar and we'll do the distal. We'll look, there's no bleeding on the floss, and then we'll do the mesial. No bleeding on the floss, we'll wait for delayed bleeding. About 30 seconds, so there is some delayed bleeding on the mesial, as well as the distal. So we'll go ahead and do her second premolar. Floss the mesial. No bleeding on the floss. We'll floss the distal. No bleeding on the floss. We'll wait about 30 seconds. Waiting for delayed bleeding. So how you do the math for this is you will pick the number of sites, so wherever you've seen bleeding, so there was 4 sites of bleeding, and divide it by the number of teeth and multiply those by 4. Then you will multiply by 100. I need backup! It's not because of a remainder this time!
I've got the remainder. All right. Oops. All right, so gingival bleeding index and our math. Already pre-done for your convenience. We're going to take the number of sites with bleeding. An example, if we had 45 sites throughout the entire mouth, we would put that on the top. We will divide that by the number of teeth multiplied by the sites that you've checked. Total. So total, we have 28 teeth at 4 sites. We have 112 sites total. So 45 divided by 112 times 100 to get your percent is 40%. Round if needed.
And now for our Mythbuster of the day. So, does the use of a power flosser positively enhance our hygiene status? The answer is no. As we all know, using manual floss in that C shape is going to give us the best adequate care because we're getting as much of the tooth surface clean from biofilm as we can. You want to know why? The use of real floss gives us that mechanical action, whereas things like an air flosser or a water pick are just shooting bursts of air and water, and they're not really getting thoroughly into the gums to provide that debridement that we want in between those interproximal areas.
Second, we're going to be talking about the sulcus bleeding index. In the sulcus bleeding index, you're evaluating 6 different sites. Just kidding. We're going to be evaluating 4 different sites around the tooth. You're going to be evaluating the mesial, distal, facial, and lingual for bleeding. So how you will evaluate these areas is you will use the walking probe method, and you will walk the probe around the tooth, evaluating for bleeding after 30 seconds.
Why, hi there. Now we're going to do the math that is correlated to the treatment that Chandler just provided and explained to you and demonstrated. We are going to use the gingival index scoring, which is where we got these examples, and we are going to do an example on multiple teeth, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teeth with 4 locations: mesial, distal, facial, lingual. So on this tooth, we added it up, we have 6. This tooth, we have 8. This tooth is 9, 9, and 7. We are now going to add those together, which is going to be 39. And we are going to divide the 39 by the total number of teeth we have multiplied by the amount of surfaces that we have. So we have 4 sites, 5 teeth, we have 20. So we're going to divide 39 by 20, which will give us 1.95, and you would round to a 2.
Now for Mythbuster number 2.
Is there a significant reduction in the amount of bleeding when chlorhexidine is used as an adjunct to normal hygiene practices? The answer is yes. Chlorhexidine is used to treat gingivitis, so we know that to mean swelling, irritation, inflammation, and of course bleeding gums.
The third index we're going to be talking about is the Eastman Interdental Bleeding Index. The purpose of this index is to measure papillary bleeding after stimulation of the interproximal areas, indicating inflammation. So the procedure, you're going to depress the papilla with a wooden interdental cleaner. We don't have wooden interdental cleaners, so today we're going to be using a toothpick. So you're going to insert the toothpick or the wooden interdental cleaner horizontally between the teeth from the facial aspect. So you're going to insert from the facial aspect and then about 1 to 2 millimeters, and you're going to repeat this 4 times. You're going to record the presence or absence after about 15 seconds.
All right, guys, now we're going to explain the math portion behind the East Dental Index. We have the distal and the mesial. We have an example of 3 teeth. We have bleeding here, the mesial, distal, and mesial. So 3 sites, 3 teeth, 2 sites per tooth, 3 bleeding sites, 3 teeth, 2 sites equals 6. Then we're back. We're now going to divide the number of sites with bleeding by the total number of sites assessed, which gives us 1.5. Then we will round to 2. We will not have a remainder.
And now for our last Mythbuster.
Does the addition of a flossing aid to the toothbrushing regime decrease our interproximal bleeding that is measured by the Eastman Interdental Bleeding Index?
Go.
The answer is yes, because our toothbrush bristles can only reach about 1 to 3 millimeters into the gingival margin. And so we really need that interproximal aid to help reach deeper into the sulcus and get down into that interproximal space.